So obviously, we are super fans of not only these kids but their parents as well. Um, it was uh, it was really great to have them with us today. And Michael actually went from middle school to high school, got his undergrad degree and his high school diploma in 4 years, 4.5 years, and is in a Ivy League law school.
Well, and I know that the twins will do just as well. And the same with Deanie. I love working with these kids, but I know I say it over and over again. There's something about, working with their parents as well that makes you realize that kids don't just happen upon that. They may have a passion for something, but they have to have a support network behind them. We can come in and fill in some gaps for that, but we love having parents like these. Join us again next week as we have another set of parents coming in to talk to you a little bit about the Aerospace and Innovation Academy. As we say, let's go to space. Parents, Mr. Kiesling, Mr. Mayville, thank you so much for spending some time with us this afternoon. This is a third in the series where we've been talking with some parents about the experiences that their children of various ages have been able to undertake, but also how that effect has maybe had on them, not only maybe in their schooling, but what we see for their future. Let's start with you, Paul, if that's okay. Tell us a little bit about how your kids came to get involved with the Aerospace and Innovation Academy.
Yeah, well, thank you both for having us. Excited to be here. It was several years ago now. Our kids joined the Weiss School, and at that time, the academy was there, and they had the good fortune to meet both of you, and found their way into aerospace. Our oldest son really had a passion and an interest in debate, which led to public policy, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And our youngest son was really more the analytical one and focused on computers and programming. And what we found when we met you guys was kind of this wonderful formation of being able to triangulate all three of those things. With aerospace, I would really say, not to underpin it in any way, being the widget in the vehicle, to allow them to start to talk to people, start to learn a number of skills, and then get really interested in aerospace. And so that's really how they found their way into it. I would say it's something that they're really immersed in now. It's a large part of both of their lives, both at school and I would say from an extracurricular standpoint. We're just excited and thrilled that they're part of the program, that they've been part of the program, and we look forward to continuing to be part of the program into the future.
Mr. Mayville, how about you?
Well, we were very excited about both programs, the public policy as well as the space, what I call aerospace science program. We actually had William skip a grade to accelerate his ability to get into the program because they couldn't start until they were in the 5th grade. So he skipped the 4th grade so that he could get into the thing a little sooner, and has not looked back. It did for us everything we hoped it would be, which was to not only teach the academics, but to teach what I would call some real world experiences with the trips that were taken, the ability to get in front of audiences, large audiences, and speak, and to have a lot of unique opportunities that children in the 5th through the 8th grade normally do not get. In fact, most high school students don't get these opportunities.
Right. That's true. So when we think now as to the different ages or the stages even as where they're at, what are some of the perhaps most unique of experience or skills? Let's start with skill sets like that perhaps they've gleaned from participating in some of these various topics.
Let's start with Mr. Mayville. What do you think? Yes. What have you seen William add to his skill set that might be attributed to what we've done with him?
Okay. There were two. First, the public speaking piece. In his world, I thought was probably the most important. To get him in front of an audience and have him speak, and started from everything from the middle school science fair, speaking before the judges, then speaking to the county commission or the city council in the area, going to Tallahassee to speak to legislators, going to Washington to speak with the senators and representatives. That part was, I felt, a unique experience. He is not per se a science guy or a math guy. He is a history guy. But Kevin was able to take that background and tie it into a research paper that he presented at a conference in Dubai. But he loves science, even though I don't see him in that career path. He loves science, and he wanted to be a part of the group that was doing the scientific ideas, and I think it enhanced his whole experience with science that he would never have gotten if it had simply been a classroom textbook exercise.
And Mr. Kiesling, same question. Skill sets for either of your, and both.
Well, I would agree with first I would agree with what Mr. Mayville said. So the public speaking side of the things, I think, is paramount to the program. The children in the club have to put themselves out there, and you guys work just so well to find their strengths and put them in positions where they're vulnerable. They have to speak, they have to reach out, they have to talk to people, and give them a chance to succeed. So, that's something that's apparent. I think taking a step back, there's a few softer items as well that just really stick out to me, and I think has made the program just worth our family's time, and has formed just a foundation for our kids, and that's the soft skills that everybody talks about. So I think one of the debates we had in our family, maybe not even a debate vocally, but in my head, oftentimes, people who come from athletic backgrounds, they think sports are the way to learn competition, learn teamwork, learn failure, learn perseverance, and that's very true. What I learned very quickly with this program is you get all of that and more. So both of our children are athletic. They like to play sports. They have their teams there. But this program, to me, has put them in such an accelerated real life position to succeed in the world with all of those same traits. So number one, to get to the point of public speaking, they have to become a subject matter expert in some type of topic. And Mr. Mayville hit on it, and I'll go back to it where, both of you, Kevin and Shauna, have you guys seek out and put the kids in positions to find an interest, elaborate on it, become a subject matter expert on a topic. Then they have to do a lot of work internally. And, that work is part of the club. That's working with the other students, who is their team. And that's working with their coaches, who are the both of you. And there's a feedback loop there that's constant. And I have to say, the feedback loop isn't always a fun loop. You don't always want to be told that maybe you can do this a little bit better, but that is part of the learning experience. And there's trials and tribulations, and you go back through that. And then you get to the point of presentation. So I really think about it as practice, prepare, execute, and you put the kids in a position to do that. And it's, we'll talk a lot about all of the travel that they get to do and some really unique and interesting conferences, but it happens at all different types of levels. It happens, before they get to the conference. It happens in front of the team. It happens in practice sessions. And I just think that's an invaluable lesson, and it's hard to replicate that anywhere.
I know Kevin's chomping at the bit. He wants to ask something, but I have to throw something in, particularly about public speaking. And Mr. Mayville, I direct this one to you because you and your wife were really the reason why Kevin and I both ended up meeting and working together with kids. Can you share with us a little bit about your vision for why you wanted such a world-class program, what your visions were even was it 7 years ago now that even allowed this to begin?
Well, my wife, I give her all the credit because she came up with the vision, the strategic plan for the school. Weiss had a unique opportunity in which the students at that time all had pretty high IQs. And so they were able to absorb a lot more work and a lot more sophisticated material than what a normal elementary middle school student probably could do. And so the idea was to create what we would call centers of excellence. And the idea was each year we would take 2 or 3 of the departments, starting at the middle school and working our way down to the elementary school, of initially creating silos and then trying to create pollination between the silos so that they would all begin to work together. So the areas that we began with, the first 3 were speech and debate, because the school at that time did not have a speech program, and we felt it was critical that the school have a public speaking program. We were not necessarily thinking about all the things that has evolved into, but it was at least to get kids on their feet and talking. She and I both had a background in high school in public speaking, and we both knew how important that was. So that was the first department. Then the second one was science. The science at the school at that time was abysmal. The middle school were the 6th grade, where it's used a 4th grade science book, textbook. When we recruited Kevin, we talked about a vision, and my wife spent with Kevin quite a bit of time of putting a laundry list of big ideas of what the science program could do. And it was a laundry list, and it was not necessarily we were going to accomplish every one of them, but it was sort of goals that were going to be set. Kevin added his ideas, she added her ideas, and that was sort of the emphasis for us. The third project was music, and we brought in a music teacher at the time, and the goal was to expand music in the program, and there were great things that were being done in all 3 areas. I mean, on the music side, we actually had our own symphony orchestra that was created. Kevin's flying to space, and we're going to Congress and writing bills that are. I mean, this is all happening within 2 years after the idea was planted. And the next year it was designed to go after some other departments and pick the same process. The biggest problem is that we had with the school with this was a cultural shock with parents that initially were coming to the school to get an automatic A, sort of like what I call concierge education, instead of trying to get an education. And so there was a little bit of tug and war going on between those families that wanted this and saw this as the future, and others that didn't. The biggest challenge was that there are some students that simply were not ready to make this leap to a higher demand. Anyway, I won't go on and on, but that was the basic concept, was to create these centers of excellence and then to have them integrate with one another, as you all have done, so that you have space teaches space, ties it to all the other sciences, and then ties in your case, public speaking, and the topic on public speaking, whether it's space or history or whatever, it really didn't matter to us, but it got the job done. So I don't want to go too far, but that was the concept.
Right. And thank you for sharing that. And eventually, because of how well we worked together and the fact that the school was going in a different direction, we literally had to form the Aerospace and Innovation Academy as a vehicle to deliver this. And we got tired of graduating kids after the 8th grade and losing them, to other schools. So yeah, that brings us here. One thing that I just jotted down a note that both of you share is that your children, to the best of my knowledge, they both presented at City Hall. They both went to Tallahassee for Space Day, Aerospace Advocacy. They both went to Washington, D.C. I believe they both presented and been with the Center for Strategic and International Studies think tank. And they both had great successes in the science fair, both families. And William had the privilege to be a part of a delegation we got to present at the White House at the Office of Science and Technology Policy about the space program, the CubeSat we were doing. So your three boys have really, and I've heard Mr. Mayville say this, you were there at the right time, and you are there at the right time, and the kids got a really enormous amount of experience.
Well, and they were willing to do the work though too. And I think that's one of the things that we've noticed about the kids that we get to work with. They may have started out, at a certain school where the IQs were elevated, but I think it has come now to the part where it's more about kids with passion and grit, people who are willing to work, and parents who allow their kids to experience that.
I would like to ask each of you now, there are three really unique and big projects going on, and they are led by each of your kids. So each of your kids is doing something remarkable, right? Remarkable. And I want to bring up those ideas and let you share anything you'd like to from your perspective. Let's start with the youngest, Dylan, who is in 6th grade. And then we'll do Paul, and then we'll talk about William. Dylan is quite gifted. For our audience, he's quite gifted with software, computer-aided drafting, things like that. So with our satellite team, if we need an exploded diagram of the CubeSat, Dylan is the kid. I remember being in NASA meetings where they're like, who's doing your drawings? Because they're fantastic. I'm like, oh, he was a 5th grader back then. But I will tell you this, I am working on a utility patent application for this VR tool that I spoke to Dylan about for helping students see the inside of the CubeSat, being able to pull it apart and see the welds and things. Paul Kiesling Sr., could you speak to Dylan and his either his enthusiasm or his interest in that project?
Yeah, no, thank you for that setup, Kevin. It goes back to something, I said earlier, which is I think you both have a unique ability to work with the kids and find their strengths and put them in position to have their strengths come out. So, I think that's number one. I think number two, the form of aerospace, it encompasses everything. So, we've hit on it. It encompasses the public speaking aspect. You have to have a plan for whatever the project is that you're going to do. You got to work through that project and prepare it. And then there's a lot that goes into an aerospace type of project. It just so happens that software, CAD, math, and sciences are all part of that. They all have different domains. For our youngest son, Dylan, I think it's just something, it's innate. He likes software, he likes to program, he likes to code, and he likes the creative aspect of it. And he's able to do all three of those things, and he spends a lot of time on it. And Shauna, you mentioned it earlier, these things don't get done by themselves. I barely could get my MacBook on and charged here. Luckily, I was able to click into the Zoom link. I don't have the ability to help Dylan with anything related to coding or software. It really is the setup that you guys are giving him to learn, and then him taking that away and just doing it day in and day out. Weekends we get up early. He's up early, and he gets us up early because he's in his room and he's working on the projects that you guys put forth with him, and it's put him in a position where he can now start to lead some of these projects. I would add conversely to that, what maybe Dylan's strong suit, or at least we didn't view it as parents' strong suit, as being because our oldest son, it was always a strength and a position of strength for him was his ability to speak and engage with people. As Dylan's been put into these projects where he's the lead and he's the subject matter expert, he has to communicate that with the group, and he's doing a better and better job of it. And he has a tremendous amount of confidence in doing it because he knows the ins and outs of it. And so I think those two things go hand in hand, and it's just been a tremendous development and path to see. And again, not every day is easy with it, but he enjoys doing it, and he gets after it.
Yeah,
when he's
now-
had some healthy competition too, because I know your boys and they are competitive with each other.
And that brings us to
man.
Paul. Paul is in the 9th grade now, and Paul told me he wanted to be more into the entrepreneurial vein, and he has a real passion, I think, for that. So I said, dude, why don't you take my small Blue Cube company, which preceded the Wolfpack and AIA, and let's find some entrepreneurial avenues and Pitch Fest, Shark Tank, whatever. Let's find some of those. And he nominated Blue Cube for the Edison Invention Awards. And the only reason we're a finalist this year is from the work of Paul. He made the video, he organized the students for the application. That's his happy place. I am thrilled that we're finalists, and I intend if we're going to go up on the stage, it's going to be Paul. My
Paul
hope
from
is
Exeter, by the way.
Yeah,
all the way
he's
up
not
north.
even in the state of
He's
Florida
not even
anymore.
here.
But I wanted to share that. Could you speak a little bit to Paul's involvement, even though he's not even in the state of Florida anymore, he's still active. Could you add just a little bit to that?
Again, thanks for the setup there. And again, our oldest son, and I think as parents and any parent who has multiple children, you realize they're all a little bit different. We do have a lot of healthy competition in the family between both boys, which is a lot of fun. I think his involvement continues to stem, Kevin and Shauna, just both from the standpoint, and again, like I said earlier, we view the club as a team, and you guys as the coaches, and you become ingrained in that. And that's not something that once you form a community around it, you just leave. It's something that forms a basis, forms a foundation, and these are projects and things that you guys are working on that are applicable to anybody at all levels. So we foresee them continuing forward in this for a long time to come. As it relates to this specific project, again, part of it is you guys set a high bar, and you want kids to succeed, and they get to experience success. So that's number one. Again, it starts with doing little things that become bigger things and bigger ideas, and you set big, audacious goals for them. And as it relates to this project, I think if I remember correctly, we had some family visiting this past summer. We were preparing for him to go away to school, and effectively he had a free week in the summertime, and he again went into his room and got to work, and you presented the idea to him, and he took it and ran with it, and there was a lot of consultation, if I recall, back and forth with you and him, but he spent a lot of time in deep thought, deep work, and I'll be honest, I didn't really know what he was doing. Something came of it. I asked a few times if he wanted to go golfing or go to the basketball court, and he said he had to get this project done. And, as we found out earlier this week, you guys moved on to the finals of what is a pretty unique award and an opportunity set. But right. The foundation of it is hard work. And, that's what it goes back to.
Yep. And what William and Paul both share is they have been team leaders on CubeSat proposals as well. And we'll find out in about a month if NASA selected us for a third time. And let's talk about William. Now, my recollection is that William was in the gallery with us in Congress when our congressman introduced a resolution called, I believe it was Wolverine CubeSats in Education.
The HR 109 and then HR 85
so
later.
William goes back to the era where Shauna led the kids and they worked with the congressman's office. But now William's moved into sort of a project manager, philanthropic role. And William has a vision for increasing STEM participation in high school kids and launches. And I know he's knee deep right now in his white paper, and he has applied to several conferences this year. I want to say SmallSat, IAC, and Coast Bar, where he'll be presenting this mechanism that he hopes will help high schools get to space. Mr. Mayville, from your seat, what do you see? What are your observations with William in that? And what good do you see coming from that, from both your child's perspective and the validity of his program?
Well, for us, it's a very exciting program. I was hoping that he was going to get this kind of project at the high school level, but it's not going to happen, I don't think. And why I have encouraged him to jump with both feet into this project is that it has changed his thinking. He was before looking more and going into government in a policy kind of position. Now he's looking more at finance as his career path. This project is going to be very interesting in his development because he's looking at two things. He's looking at one, how to finance or be an alternative to high schools and middle schools for funding the rocket launch. So taking NASA out of the equation, making it easier for the high schools and middle schools to get approved because they get really left out of the discussion right now. And then the second piece is more of a philanthropic, which is to raise money to pay for the cost of the actual construction of the CubeSat and the testing. Two different models. One's going to be more of a government kind of contract. I'm thinking something like that. He's thinking the direction he's thinking is Space Force or SpaceX or something like that. The other side may be more, as I said, a philanthropic. And he made a small presentation at a luncheon the other day with Governor Scott Walker, who was fascinated with this idea of what he was talking about. He had never really heard of a CubeSat, but they talked for a few minutes and got very interested. The other thing that you both of you do, which isn't a concept that's really even taught even in college, which is networking. And that concept is started at the elementary middle school of going around, meeting people, giving them a business card, and begin developing contacts, relationships with people and this has now become second nature to him. And I think this particular project is going to provide a whole different level of discussion for him. Maybe something that would normally be done at the college or graduate level at a very young age. And it'll be interesting to see how it evolves. We're just getting our foot into the water on this thing, but I'm very encouraged about the excitement that he has reached about this project, regardless of how it goes.
Yes, these are high level ideas, right? This is adult work that all three of these kids are doing. And I like what you guys said. I always tell the kids, this is an all volunteer army. I don't make you do anything. If you want to do it, there's great opportunities, right? Some kids, they catch a vision they can do what I really think is the blue sky stuff. So without limitations. I appreciate all of you sharing about the three boys and their unique contributions to the team. And I feel like they're doing the things that they want to do.
Before I get to my final question, which is always like, in this case, it's going to be, for parents who might be on the cusp of thinking about whether or not their child should engage in something like this. I'm really fascinated by the idea that we know that your kids in particular, the ones who find success here, are intrinsically motivated to work hard anyway. There's not really parents pushing them to do it. They have to want to do it themselves. But we oftentimes get some parents who are like, well, we want our child to have a balance. We want them to still be children at the end of the day. How do you manage to help your children, because they are still children, feel that balance, but to still encourage them to do that hard work at the same time?
Well,
I'll let you lead, William.
Okay.
It's like I couldn't get him to play golf. I couldn't do it.
This is going to be an interesting year because William's academic rigor at his high school is tough right now. He's moving into the AP classes, which are a lot of work required, and he's in a number of clubs as well. But this project has moved front and center. I told him back when he was in middle school that the experiences that he was getting, he would never see it probably again. I told him he would never get it in high school. He may get some of it in college, but this was a unique opportunity for the 3 or 4 years that he was at the Weiss Elementary Middle School. And he needed to embrace it and not think that's the norm. As far as all of the work that he does is is his self-generation. I don't do anything other than answer questions, or if he needs to talk to someone about finance, I had to meet with my controller to learn how to do spreadsheets and things like that. But it is he has a clear vision of what he wants out of this project, and he hasn't really shared all of it with me. But he sees this as a huge stepping stone in his development, almost to the point that he would rather do this than go to high school. That's how far we've gotten.
I love that.
Because he feels this is the real world. This is what it's about.
This is why we have a problem with education, right?
Yes.
We don't really treat it like the real world. That's the problem.
I think he has ownership, right? It's his project, and having ownership of something always makes you more invested, right?
We'll see how, as I said, he's all in, good or bad, how it turns out. But I believe that this education, along with the academics, helps round out the student and prepares them for college.
Paul, what about you? How do you keep Paul and Dylan, still balanced?
Yeah, I think it's a unique question, and in some ways a difficult one. Number one, I think every family has to define, and parent has to define what balance means to their child and to their family first and foremost. If you're on the cusp of doing this, we've talked about some high level things that have happened here. These all three situations are unique. Each child is doing something unique, and I think the theme that one should take out of it is they've been able to pull the strings back and follow a path that's important to them. There's a lot more than three children in the club, and there's a way for everybody to benefit in the club. You don't have to go to this level. I don't think you have to be intimidated by the work that these kids are doing, and there's other kids doing similar level of work, but there's a lot of kids who come, they're able to enjoy the club, they're able to enjoy aerospace, and they're able to pick up certain life skills as well and focus on other things. It might be soccer, it might be baseball, it might be an instrument, it might be drama that you're really focused on, but I think the balance of doing many things becomes helpful. So I wouldn't, it doesn't have to be an all in, but it gives you an opportunity, if this is something that your child starts to really like, which our children have, to be an all in. And quite candidly, we've started to gravitate away from some of the other activities. And that's just part of life's balance, is what's important to you and what do you want to focus on. And, I can't remember who quoted it, but, there's a good saying that, if you want to be okay, go wide. If you want to be really, really good, go deep. And you can go both pathways here. Our kids have decided to kind of go really deep into different lanes that interest them. And we're excited about what that path means for them going forward. It doesn't always mean success, but they're going to learn from some of the failures. They're going to learn to network. They're going to learn how to do hard work. Right. And, that's important.
Yeah, I want to, for our audience, you're hearing from parents whose kids have really not only been a part of the program for years, but also have made a personal choice to go deep. I always say everybody starts out at zero. So kids that are new to the program, they're not expected to know anything, just to be interested. And I appreciate that so much. And again, failure is, I think, one of our most important learning tools that we can offer the kids, which is an environment where they have a chance to succeed or fail or something in between, but they get to learn from it and they don't get punished for not hitting the mark early on.
Or to know, like, too, I think that we see this even more so now with these conferences that we're doing. It's not just the first time that you put something forward that's going to be the final draft of anything that you're doing. So any proposal, any conference writing, they get a lot of kickbacks where they have to do it over and over and over again. And they learn really quickly, okay, that doesn't mean that I was bad or wrong at it. It just means everything needs improvement.
Yes.
These kids are building outstanding resumes.
Yes. Three young men that I'm very proud of. And again, as Shauna mentioned, we are very grateful and thankful to have a set of parents that have seen the vision, or at least see what we think we can bring. And we appreciate you guys. So I just want to thank you for taking some time with us today. It's always great to hear the parents' perspective of what their kids are doing.
And I want to close with just this. Mr. Mayville, you opened up with, both yours and Janine's vision as to what you imagined school could look like. I like to think at times from what you said that what we're trying to do with the academy does just that. That's that collaborative nature, the idea of taking those passions, working with not only now just us and our students who do that, but even as we work with other teachers. So thank you to both of you for sharing your kids with us and becoming part of our family.
So, thank you.
Right, thank you.
For having us.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
thank you for being so influential with our kids. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome.